Zuckerman Unbound. The novel Zuckerman Unbound, written by Philip Roth in 1981, continues the story of Nathan Zuckerman, a character introduced in his previous work The Ghostwriter. The Anatomy Lesson, published in 1983, also features Zuckerman, and the trilogy was later released as Zuckerman Bound. Although it has been a matter of debate, the events of the novel are loosely based on Roth's own life. Roth, one of the most renowned American writers, amassed numerous accolades throughout his career, including 2 National Book Awards, 2 National Book Critics Awards, 3 PEN/Faulkner Awards, and a Pulitzer Prize in 1997 for American Pastoral, which also features Zuckerman. In 2001, he was awarded the Franz Kafka Prize in Prague. The year is 1969, and Nathan Zuckerman has become an unexpected celebrity due to the publication of his latest book, Karnofsky, which bears a striking resemblance to Roth's Portnoy's Complaint, has caused quite a stir for its candid portrayal of sexuality and obsession. The novel takes the form of a psychoanalytic session, with the protagonist confessing to a range of things, including his infatuation with Jewish mothers. Despite the book's success, Zuckerman is struggling to cope with the aftermath. He's divorced, poorly dressed, and miserable, especially because of the loss of privacy that fame has brought him. Zuckerman's agent complains that his behavior is unbecoming of a humble yeshiva butcher, and that he's instead acting like the brash author of an indecent book. One day, while eating at a deli, Zuckerman is approached by Alvin Peopler, a former quiz show contestant, who is still clinging to his 15 minutes of fame. Peopler professes to be a huge fan of Zuckerman's work, but when Zuckerman leaves the deli, Peopler begins to follow him and won't stop talking. Eventually, Zuckerman manages to shake him off, but not without considerable effort. Later that day, Zuckerman is at home when he receives a menacing call from an anonymous man who demands a large sum of money, threatening to kidnap his mother if he doesn't comply. Although Zuckerman doesn't believe the threat, he is understandably shaken by the call. He reflects on the fact that his mother's neighbors have been gossiping, convinced that she was the inspiration for the protagonist's sexual fantasies in his book, although Zuckerman has denied it. His thoughts then turn to the night he met Cesara O'Shea, a famous actress, earlier that year. They bonded over their shared disdain for fame, and by the end of the night, they had become intimate. However, the following day, O'Shea disappeared without returning Zuckerman's calls. He later discovered that she had returned to Cuba and taken up with none other than Fidel Castro. Zuckerman is deeply disturbed when he receives another call from the anonymous caller, and he decides to seek advice from his agent. His agent suggests that he should call the police if he believes that the threat is real, but Zuckerman is hesitant to involve them, fearing the impact it may have on his mother's privacy. Despite his agent's suggestion that he can use his wealth to protect himself, Zuckerman remains resistant to the idea of insulation. Later, Peopler approaches Zuckerman again, this time entertaining him with a display of his vast knowledge of game show trivia. However, their conversation quickly turns to Peopler's review of Zuckerman's book, which he asks for feedback on. Zuckerman, who finds the review unsatisfactory, gives his honest opinion, causing Peopler to become angry. Zuckerman becomes suspicious once again that Peopler may be the anonymous caller. Desperate for some sense of normalcy, Zuckerman tries to find solace in his ex-wife Laura, but she is not at home. Instead, he is confronted by her neighbor, Rosemary, who accuses Zuckerman of basing a character in his book on Laura. Zuckerman denies the accusation, but the encounter leaves him feeling defeated and hopeless. After receiving a threatening call and experiencing a confrontation with Peopler, Zuckerman receives devastating news. His father has had a heart attack and is dying. He rushes to Miami to see him, but their conversation is strained, and his father's final words are an insult. Zuckerman attends the funeral and then flies back to Newark with his brother, who blames him for their father's death, believing that his book was responsible. Feeling lost and alone, Zuckerman aimlessly wanders around his old neighborhood. Roth's novel, Zuckerman Unbound, shares a metafictional element with many of his other works that prominently feature Nathan Zuckerman. The novel constantly refers to Roth's earlier work, Portnoy's Complaint, as well as his own life experiences, which adds a layer of complexity to the relationship between fact and fiction. The novel highlights the fact that popular works of fiction often take on lives of their own, with audiences reading their own meanings into them.